Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Rangers are all set to wrap up the championship in style in front of a packed Ibrox Stadium. Falkirk chairman Dougie Henderson has called on the SPFL to reverse their decision on the final day's championship fixtures, and Jackson Irvine is the Premiership Player of the Month for March. Just a few of the topics I'll be discussing in the company of Alan Ruff, and our bootroom guest, I'm delighted to say, is Murdo Macleod. So lots to talk about. Rangers finally D-Day tonight, because Rangers can wrap up the championship and do it with a bit of style after the debacle of the weekend, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's been a long road for the supporters, in all fairness, who have hung on in there right from the bottom division all the way up, and I think it's fitting that they win it at home when the majority of the supporters are there to see them winning the title. I mean, obviously Murdo's won more titles than me, and if I was to win a title, I think I would rather win it at home than away in a small crowd where the majority of the supporters can't get in.
Yeah, I'm glad actually you had to think about maybe how many you'd won in comparison to Murdo. It didn't really bear any great thought whatsoever. But with that in mind, I mean, I think Michael O'Halloran came out and said that they want to win it in style. They're not limping over the line. Well, they've got games to spare, Murdo. And the curious thing about it is, they've leaked 9 goals in the last 3 games. Is that something that Mark Warburton will be looking at with the summer in mind?
That's a worry. Obviously, the first game when you lose 3 goals, that's maybe a hiccup. Then if you lose 3 goals the following game, that's a problem. With 3 goals in the third game, now there is a major problem. So they've got to look at it. And I think Rangers, you look at their back four, they've got 2 full-backs who have scored, 20 goals between them, 25 goals between them. So that tells you they're up the park all the time. So it's leaving the 2 centre-backs. And obviously, they've been exposed to playing against the better sides recently, so they've got to look at that area and make sure when they're defending they've got a back four in place. Yeah,
I mean, Mark Warburton says, Ruffy, that Rangers will be competitive next season. Robbie Nielsen, the Hearts boss, says if they're going to challenge Celtic, he's going to have to triple his budget to spend somewhere in the region of 24, 25 million. Do you think he's talking a bit of sense there?
I think he's talking about a sense. I think everybody's anxiously waiting to see where Rangers are going to go in the close season. You know, the supporters, being old firm supporters, with the expectation of who they're going to be bringing in, will be looking higher than everybody else. But we'll just have to all wait and see. First of all, we have to see what kind of players he thinks he needs to bring. And of course, the money is a big thing as well. I mean, a few supporters are already looking at the 2 signings from Accrington Stanley, and I think, being a football supporter, if you're going to be challenging Celtic, you know, I don't know much about these players, but you would think it would be better players than players that are with Accrington Stanley.
Well, no disrespect to any player that comes from lower leagues. You can you can unearth, Murdo, the odd gem that can suddenly step up to the plate. But I always have to look at levels in football, and I think the real test for Rangers and their transformation in the side, you know, 4 or 5 of the players that are talking about strengthening will need to come in and be starters in that side if they're going to challenge.
Well, if you're going to bring in players in the summer, they've got to be better than the players they've got, because there's no use bringing in someone of the same style of play, the same play, the way whether it's a wide player, you don't bring in 2 the same. You've got to bring in better players, Peter. And Rangers have got to spend a lot of money. If they can go up the way they are just now, and they would be maybe in the top 6, looking at if they can play it well week in, week out. But I think if they want to go and challenge Celtic, Aberdeen, just now, you're looking at Hearts as well. There's Hearts came up one season and they've turned their whole side round. So Rangers have got to make sure they bring in better quality, and it's difficult for them, Peter, because Alan's saying Accrington Stanley, bringing in players from there, but what kind of level? Do you go to Chelsea? You can't buy a player there. Do you go down the leagues? So you start having to go down the leagues again.
But he's starting to look at loans, though.
Yeah, I think that's what you'll find. I think you'll find the experience of getting the Arsenal players and the Spurs players. I think he'll be going back to these teams and looking for another level above the 2 players, the young players. I think there'll be fringe players at Arsenal and Spurs where he obviously seems to have the contacts, and he'll be asking them, look, we're in a bigger division, we want to be trying to challenge for Europe. give us somebody a wee bit better than a wee bit more experienced than what you've given us, and I think that'll be part of the way.
And will you be openly critical of them for doing that then? Because quite simply you were critical of Celtic going and getting Patrick Roberts.
Yeah, I'm only looking at it from a footballing point, from a young player trying to break into the first team. If you start flooding your team with 5 and 6 loan players, it just doesn't, for me, I know why he's doing it, but it doesn't send out the right, you know what I mean, to young players who are committing themselves to the big clubs. And all of a sudden, a young player who's going to say, well, I'm never ever going to get a chance. If there's people coming up from Arsenal or Man City or whatever, why am I hanging about here? And that's when you might start to lose somebody. I'm not saying it will happen, it's up to the individual to decide whether they're going to wait 2 or 3 years or not.
But my point on that, Ruffy, is it's a harsh game, football, and it's a business. And Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, all of these guys and all of the chairman and the board need to look at how they somehow punch above their weight to get the rewards of European football.
They've got to do that, Peter, and no, Alan's talking about it. I think you don't go down south and bring up young players who've great potential. Rangers, they've got to bring up players who've played for the first team and been a stalwart for the first team, and maybe they're out of the team now, and then it's a chance for Rangers to bring them up, because they do need experience, because when they start playing, going up to Pittodrie and going to Tynecastle and all these places, they're really tough places to go, and they've been settled in the top flight for so long. There's Hearts now, what a remarkable season they've had, not to be sitting third, but Rangers now, going into this league, they've got to make sure they're going to give a challenge, because every Rangers fan, they'll not be putting up for or finishing in the top 6. They'll be looking to challenge Celtic this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Rangers have got to spend some money and bring in quality players.
Yeah, and as far as Hibs are concerned tonight, Ruffy, John Baird was on the programme last night suggesting that they feel confident they can get second place. Are Hibs now getting to the point where Alan Stubbs is saying, look, you're playing for your Cup semi-final place, you're playing to try and get us to second, it could be so important.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. They've got massive games coming up, and as a player, everybody wants to play in them, but you have to prove to them that you can handle it, because at this stage of the season, that's what it is. It's not all about ability, it's being able to handle the pressure that comes with a game, the particular game that you're playing in. And Hibs have got some coming up. I know it's only Livingston tonight who are sitting second bottom, but you've still got to go out. The pressure's still there. If you get an early goal, takes it off a wee bit, but the longer the game goes, then you start to worry.
Yeah, and if you have a look at the championship table, Murdo, it doesn't lie at the moment. Falkirk have battled away in surprise more than a few, maybe not Peter Houston, who's been telling us all that they're more than capable of upsetting the apple cart here. What's your take on potentially, a team taking on the second bottom of the Premiership? Where do you think the strength lies there?
I think it would be a tough match, because obviously who's going to finish second bottom? We've been talking for the last 6-7 weeks about Alan talking about Dundee United. I think Dundee United now, if they can get anything tonight, I think that'll be the first step towards they'll get above Kilmarnock in the next couple of matches. And I think you look at United could still be in a playoff, but Hamilton, I thought that they struggled badly at the weekend against Aberdeen. I don't think there was much about them, and I think that's where they've got to try and get back to the way they played at the start of the season. Even when they weren't winning all the games, Peter, they were playing better football, they were sharper. Against Aberdeen, they looked as if the heads were down. I think Hamilton's got to go and raise their game to get away from the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those Premiership fixtures after the break, Ruffy, but one of them isn't taking place, and that is, of course, Inverness against Hearts. Second time this season, quite unusual when a virus goes straight through a side and forces the manager and the club to actually make an appeal to the SPFL to cancel the game.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do about it. You've just got to rely on the coming up with the doctor's lines, and enough of them. I don't know how many you actually need to get a game cancelled, but certainly they've done that, and they've proved that the guys can't play.
Yeah, I mean,
just got to put it.
Never happened in your day, Murdo. If you're sick, you just get out there and get on with it. There's a win bonus.
That's all. Appearance money and a win bonus. That's all. It is a wee bit unusual, but you know what it's like nowadays. The players are so fit, and if someone comes in with a cough, and all of a sudden they've all got a virus, and there's a problem for them. So it's a chance to step away. But again, sometimes you look at the clubs; they've got so many players. You think they must be backup players that you can put in and play in the first team.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it is some people say, OK, Hearts' season's almost over, the secured third place, but, points actually bring you more money as well, Ruffy, so there's more to play for, and they're all going to have to try and be fit for Friday against Aberdeen.
Yeah, but as I said, you have to prove that, as Murdo said, that you haven't got enough players to take over. They must have done it. I don't think for a minute they would let them just do it just because of who they are. They'd have to prove evidence of they can't.
OK, we are going to talk about Falkirk chairman Dougie Henderson. He's not too happy with the SPFL for changing the final day's fixtures. We'll talk about that after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our bootroom guest is the former Celtic, Hibernian and Borussia Dortmund player, Murdo Macleod. And the good news is Murdo's getting ready for a humdinger of a game next week, Ruffy. He's a guest of Borussia Dortmund at the Liverpool match. Doesn't get any better than that, eh?
Well, that'll be fantastic. It'll be a fantastic game. Both teams playing well, play attractive football, open football. Yeah,
it'll be really special.
Spare ticket, no?
No. He's taking.
Looking forward to it.
He's taking somebody that's a little bit closer to him than you. That's all I'm telling you. So the point I'm going to talk about now, before we get to European football, and obviously I want to get your thoughts on Borussia Dortmund, is the Falkirk chairman, Dougie Henderson, has called on the SPFL to change the fixtures on the final day. They've moved them to the Sunday, May 1st. And I think Dougie Henderson has released a statement. I'll just read it out to you guys. We understand why the SPFL wanted to change the dates so that all the final day games could take place at the same time. The reality is that none of the teams competing for the playoffs would be disadvantaged by allowing their games to take place on the Saturday. This decision is inconsiderate of our fans, not only because of the switch to a less convenient day, but also because end-of-season supporters events have been planned for the Saturday. Clubs will lose out considerably at the gates and through the loss of hospitality. We are going through the proper channels to ask the SPFL to change its position. There's still time to reverse their decision and respect the wishes of our fans. Now, there's not a law in place that states that because television has actually asked for St Mirren against Rangers to be moved to the Sunday, there's not a rule in place there that says that everybody else then has to go over to the Sunday as well. I mean, he does have a point. I mean, but if you take the money of the broadcasters, we've all worked for them, you have to abide by them.
But again, you're looking at the Rangers game. Rangers I think will be champions tonight, so they've tied up the table, and you're looking at St Mirren. I think they'll be comfortable where they are in the bottom half of the table, so I think you should go back to the Saturday games, because you have so many clubs that get things organised. Last game of the season, people are putting things on the Saturday, and all the fans are ready for that. They've hyped up for the end of the season. I don't think you need to move all the other games to the Sunday. Yeah,
and some players will have agreed to go to some of these events, Ruffy. And of course, then I think the PFA Player of the Year Awards is on the Sunday as well.
Yeah, I just think there's been just a wee bit of lack of communication, and seeing and contacting the clubs and running it by them before they make the decision. I think the association have done it before once this year and just made a decision, and I think they actually turned. I can't off the top of my head remember what it was, but they actually had a look at it and turned their decision. So let's hope that they do something that suits the clubs rather than suits themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, let's look at the Premiership fixtures for this evening. Obviously no Inverness, Cali Thistle against Hearts. That match is postponed. Dundee against Celtic, Partick Thistle against Dundee United. Aberdeen will be looking on with great interest at Dens Park to what's happening. I wouldn't be surprised if Derek McInnes is casting his eye over it. So do they have the potential with the strike force they have to cause Celtic problems?
Well, Celtic, if they turn up and play the way they played at the weekend, the same attitude, I think they'll be strong enough to beat Dundee. But I think Dundee, after a great performance at the weekend, scoring a lot of goals, and that's where they hit Celtic hard at the back, because Celtic struggled a wee bit defensively, and I think Dundee will make a really tough match tonight. And there's Aberdeen, all the players, all the supporters will be watching that game to see if they're going to close in the gap in Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny actually, Murdo mentioned there, if they play the same way they did. I mean, at times it was like the Lee Griffiths show from set pieces, Ruffy. Hearts, I thought, played really, really good football against Celtic. Have they, Gary Mackay-Stevens says that they proved a point on Saturday. Do you think they're now starting to just get into the business end and their mindset, the way they're playing?
Yeah, I thought the football was better.
Yeah.
It was a good game to watch. Yeah. You have to congratulate both sides for that. It was pretty open. Both sides were having a go. But my main worry with Dundee is they do play a lot of attacking players, and sometimes they leave themselves wide open, as they did at Ibrox for Rangers. And it depends how Paul Hartley sets his team out, because Celtic will create chances. But as you've just said there, that they play three strikers, Dundee, and they're all quality players who can score goals, particularly Hemmings, was he up at 23, 25?
Yeah.
That's an incredible amount of goals for a Dundee striker.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on that point, I think it was Niall McGinn who mentioned for Aberdeen that they need to now win all the remaining games, and he thinks, he's hoping, I think, that could be good enough, to edge it in their favour, banking, of course, on a couple of slip-ups. I think in the cold light of day, when they look back on it, Aberdeen lost the league in October, Murdo.
Yep.
They had 4 games there where they lost them, and Celtic won their games. That was the period where they needed the consistency, and I've looked at all the results, and October is when I think the balance shifted.
See, I was amazed after that bad run from Aberdeen that they were still in the coattails of Celtic.
Yeah.
No, to lose 4 in a row, Alan, was just unheard of. A team chasing the team at the top of the table. But Aberdeen, they've kept at it. But 3 or 4 times as well, Peter, since then, Celtic slipped up, but Aberdeen slipped up as well.
Yeah.
Even last week, Celtic, they get the late winner down at Kilmarnock, or a fortnight ago, down at Kilmarnock. Then Aberdeen go to Motherwell and lose 2-1.
Yeah.
So games like that, that's what's really cost them. But you just wonder if the players are thinking, what about for next season? If we have a better season, then they could challenge. But again, I still think the Celtic players, if they're coming out after the weekend and thinking, this is the level we're at, no, they're getting better. But the mindset now is they are getting better, because they know that big games coming up. This one is at Motherwell the weekend, and then it's Old Firm games, because they've got to get themselves ready for that game as well.
Yeah, and of course, Partick Thistle, Dundee United, there's no point in asking you about it. You just think it's the Great Escape, it's on. I'm now starting to waver on this one, because this is huge. Your old team will have to put up some battle. Dundee United seem to have the momentum.
They have the momentum, and what they're doing now is they're getting a wee rub of the green. They're getting a wee bit of luck here and there. They got a luck at the weekend with the goal that they scored to win the game, but they're getting things now that they weren't getting before, and that always happens, when you turn it a wee bit and the belief comes back again. But I think the biggest thing for Dundee United is they've got a settled side now, and he's sticking with the 11. And the big players for me are Rankin and Payton. Yeah,
you just look at that table there, Murdo. Are you in Ruffy's camp now?
I am, yes. I think tonight's a massive game for them. For me, Partick Thistle, if they can get all 3 points tonight, then I think they're quite comfortable and they can just play away to the end of the season. But United, if they can get anything, even a point, I think gets them closer to Killie. It's their game in hand, and I think they put Killie under so much pressure. Killie now, they're the team that's on free fall. They've not been doing enough getting points, whereas United, they've won the odd game, and all of a sudden they're just closing that gap. At one point, everybody just dismissed them and thought there's absolutely no chance.
Yes.
Ruffy stuck by them the whole year, which has been very good, but it could be the great escape.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you just think of the dinners that Ruffy will be doing in the City of Discovery. If that actually comes off, you'll not be able to get a hold of him. Now, I must just mention, well done to Dunfermline's Alan Johnson and Fasil El Baktui. They are manager and player of the month, respectively. And I think Dunfermline will do well to hold on to their number 10.
Yes, again, he's goal scorer. Everybody wants a goal scorer, and he'll certainly have had a few people looking at him in the last 2 months. He missed a big part of the early part of the season, but since he's come back, he's been fantastic for them. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, 2 great games to look forward to tonight. It's one of those ones where you can flick between them, but here are the Champions League fixtures. Mouth-watering: Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Bayern Munich against Benfica. I think if you're only hoping that maybe Bayern Munich kicks off 5 minutes later so you can watch maybe 5 minutes of it, because you're definitely watching Barcelona Atletico Murdo, surely.
It's going to be fantastic.
Have you not moved the 2 tellies through anyone?
It will be fantastic.
Wonderful games. You know, you're looking at it, and Atletico, they've been fantastic over the last 4 or 5 years. You know, they're getting better and then winning the title and then challenging Barcelona, challenging Real Madrid. So they're up there. They're up there with the best. But Bayern Munich, the last game when they were on their backside and then they scored all the late goals, just fantastic. So it's top football now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's hard to believe it, but Barcelona could have 5 trophies by the end of the season. We're still debating whether they're the greatest ever Barcelona side. Just shows you over the 2 other great teams that I can think of, not forgetting, of course, the Dream Team. But this one could nab 5 trophies this season. They already have the World Club Championship, they've already got the Super Cup as well, Ruffy, and they're in the Copa del Rey final.
Yeah, you can see why. You just have to look at the 3 strikers they've got. You know, you look at the ability they've got. I mean, and that's all they talk about. But because they're so good, you forget about the quality they've got behind them. Yeah, and that's why they're so successful. But I've already said I think this could be the year for a smaller club to win it.
Okay then.
What small
really,
clubs left?
Yeah, Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah.
They don't spend any money.
Exactly. Listen, I'm away. I hope you've enjoyed the Dundee United Supporters Club who've been on the programme tonight. Join us tomorrow at 7 if you can. Good night.